Welcome to the Inner Athlete Podcast. I'm your host, Trent, and this is the show where we dive into all things youth athlete development, strength and conditioning, and the mindset needed to thrive on and off the field. Whether you're a parent looking to support your child's athletic journey, a coach seeking fresh insights, or an athlete ready to take your game to the next level, you're in the right place. Before we jump in, make sure to hit that subscribe button to stay updated on our latest episodes. If you enjoy the show, please give us a like, share it with your friends, and help us reach even more people who can benefit from these insights. Together, we can empower the next generation of athletes to perform at their best. Now, let's get into it. Welcome back to the Inner Athlete Podcast. I've got another special guest here today. I've got Kathryn Green. Thanks for coming down.
Thanks so much for having me, Trent.
Yeah. Kathryn is... Do you want to explain more about what you do? Because I think I'm just going to butcher it on my end, and then we'll get deep into today's topic.
Certainly. Yes, so I'm a certified mindset and wellbeing coach, and I predominantly work with females from the age of 12 up. A lot of women and teen girls come to me mainly with confidence issues and self-worth and all the rest of it. So I love working with them through those issues so that they can recognise what their potential actually is and so they can contribute the best part of them to the world.
Yeah. And what led you down this path?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I actually used to be an architect a very long time ago. And that certainly wasn't the career path for me. And therefore, in order to fill the gap until I figured out what I was really going to do with my life, I stepped into an online health and wellness business with a company called Arbonne. And I was surprisingly very good at that. And what I worked out on that journey was what I love so much about it and what I seemed to be able to be naturally quite good at was mentoring and coaching people to achieve certain things that they didn't even believe that they could achieve. And so that has led me down this path of coaching. When my son, I've got two kids, Eloise is 11 now, and my son Lockie is 8. And when he was just about to go to school, I thought, you know what? This is something that I'd like to pursue more of. And so I went and did my diploma of life coaching, and then I went back and did my master's of life coaching. And then since then I've gone on to do my ICF, which is the International Coaching Federation. So I love supporting, mentoring and coaching people to recognise their true worth in this world and to achieve more than what they realise that they could achieve. It's really fulfilling.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah. It's funny because a lot of people fall into these types of roles because of something else in particular, and then they just develop this natural knack for it, or they just start to see what their knack is, and then obviously you found your niche moving forward.
Yeah. Who would have known at the time?
No, but let's dive down into today's topic. So the reason why I got you here today, so we deal with a lot of youth athletes. We've got a lot of girls, and obviously we're seeing a flourishment of, I guess, female sport really coming into play now. But we also see, I guess, a lot more expectations from young girls, sporting and academic related as well. And I guess today's topic is more talking about, how do, I guess, young girls and then also teenage girls, deal with these pressures, whether it's from their parents, whether it's from school, whether it's because of themselves, or where does this actually stem from? Who knows? And how do we best navigate that space, moving forward? And do you want to set the scene for us and let's talk about the high performance trap?
Yeah.
So what are the expectations? Are they overkill from schools? Are they appropriate? What are you seeing from the girls that you're working with at the moment?
It's a little bit of everything. Often the girls that I'm working with, it'll be an expectation that they've put on themselves, and obviously they've got that expectation from somewhere, and therefore that puts on the pressure and the stress, and we all know that we actually don't perform to our best ability when we're under that stress and we're under that pressure. For example, I had a client whose sister her older sister had achieved this unbelievable score in her VCE, and she'd gone to one of the best. She'd been accepted into one of the best universities in America. And so therefore her younger sister, which was my client, realised that expectation, or her belief was that expectation was on her as well, and that she had to achieve exactly the same results. And it put her into an anxious, nervous, depressed state where even in her exams, she went into fight or flight and couldn't even function through her exams. So wherever that pressure is coming from, it's about giving these kids the tools in order to, and understanding their beliefs and these programs that are happening sort of unconsciously so that they can navigate through these times.
Yeah, and then is even this pressure that was created, does that start to come from the parents as well? Like, I know from the kids that I've mentored in the past, usually there's a bit of a generational, like a couple of generations now, like the people are having kids a lot later, so there can be quite a generational or
gap.
Two difference between the expectations of, the Gen Zers and, I guess my generation, millennials, are having expectations on their kids versus, the ones that are Gen X and, the boomers in terms of the expectation on their kids. Are we starting to see a bit of a difference in widening of those expectations in terms of how kids are growing up now versus the way kids grew up in the past as well?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think so. I'll tell you what I notice. I notice parents that come to me with huge concern about their child and their child's anxiety around these pressures. And they want to support their child so that they don't feel the pressure and they don't feel the anxiety and they don't crumble, yet that pressure is often coming from the parents. So it's this very contradictive space that I find, yeah. Yeah,
and then how do you go kind of like working with, like start to have that conversation with the parents? Obviously, the parent has employed you to work with the kid, and we know, half the time needs to be really spent with the parents. How do you go about that, conversation and being able to, I guess, best work with the family, not just the daughter in this case?
Yeah, and it's important to work with the family, not just the daughter. So I work with them separately. I usually have a few sessions with the daughter first, and then I will have a session with the parents where we talk about what I've worked through with that child, and I'll give them tools and techniques that I use that might, be better suited to approaching these situations with the child. And I can, like, if we talk about specific examples, I can give those tools to you.
Yeah, give us some specific examples, and we'll come back.
Well, we've got to first recognise that our mindset, like if your child has a I'm not good enough mindset, or this fear of I'm not going to be enough mindset, then if that is a belief that they're having and they're the thoughts that they're having, if they take, then obviously they've got an emotion that's going to come over their body, which is that's the belief and the thought that's creating this emotion of fear and anxiety. And if they go to take action, whether it's in their sport, whether it's in their studies, whether it's with their social situation, if they go to take action from a place of that, they're not going to get the results that they want, and therefore those results are going to feed right back into that belief that I'm not good enough. So that's what we call the belief cycle. Yeah, so the belief cycle starts with a belief, then the belief creates a thought pattern, the thought pattern creates an emotion or a feeling within the person. They then take action from that place. So if they're taking action from a place of I'm not good enough, what if I can't do this, I feel nervous and anxious, you've got to think about the type of action that they're going to take from that place, and it's not going to give them a great result. So it's really starting to reframe their thought patterns and really create a new belief around that. And it's also through language as well. So it's their self-talk, it's the way that they talk to their parents, it's the way the parents talk to them. So it's really picking them up and helping them create a new belief. What if I was good enough? If somebody who is really great at this particular thing, whether it's sports, school, whatever, what would they think about themselves? What would they believe about themselves? How would they feel about themselves inside? And from that place, what sort of action would they take? So it's really kind of breaking it down. Yeah,
because a lot of kids that I've worked with in the past, they dwell on the negatives of what they're not good at rather than actually talk about and potentially showcase all the things that are actually relatively good. But I think some of the best athletes that I've worked with, they tend to kind of like the real young ones, they're really talented, they tend to like, oh, Trent, watch this, I can do this and this.
100%.
Yeah, and they really kind of like flourish in that, and all their attention and all their awareness is on the things that they can do. The ones that really do struggle have all the attention on the things that they can't do.
Yeah. Definitely. And as soon as you start to focus your attention on what you can't do, that's all you see. Because remember, what we focus on, we get more of. And so it's really, especially as parents and as trainers and as a coach and as the people around supporting these kids, it's about reminding them every day of what they're good at.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I love using the analogy, don't think of a white elephant.
Yeah.
And what does everyone do?
I use that all the time.
Everyone thinks of a bloody white elephant.
Exactly.
Because the brain ain't smart enough to differentiate from do and don't.
No.
They just think of the actual task of what is or isn't, but really is. It just becomes is.
Yes, that's exactly right. And in NLP, so I've got a Master of NLP, which is Neuro-Linguistic Programming. We do a lot of work with the unconscious mind. And the unconscious mind actually deletes and distorts the words don't and no. So if you say, the first thing that comes to my mind is I don't want to be poor, right? Your mind, all it thinks of is being poor. It focuses on being poor. It's like, don't think of the white elephant or don't think of the blue elephant. What do we think of? We think of the blue elephant. So it's rather than when we're talking to ourselves and when we're talking to our kids, rather than telling them what they shouldn't be doing or what they're not good at, let's focus on what they should be doing and what they can do well.
Yeah, shifting the focus.
100%, yeah.
Let's talk about, like, we spoke about the belief cycle from that perspective. Now, what about self-worth, and how does that really feed into the belief cycle?
Yes, okay. So, self-worth. So often people come to me of any age and they say to me, I just want to have more confidence. Like, I just want to be more confident. And I say, well, hang on a minute. Where does confidence come from? Like, confidence comes from feeling competent. Yeah, confidence comes from being competent in something. And in order to be competent in something, we need to do it over and over again. There is a difference between confidence from competence and self-worth. So self-worth is truly knowing that just because I exist here on earth, I am worthy. You know, I am worthy of giving that a shot. I am worthy of being a part of that team and having a go. I'm worthy of being a part of my friendship group, of my family, of being here on earth and giving it a good hard crack, right? That is my birthright.
How you value yourself.
Yeah.
Essentially.
Yes, how you value yourself. Whereas I think what gets confused here is the worthiness that people get through their achievements.
Yep.
Yeah, so it's, I will be worthy, I will be liked, I will be appreciated, I will be accepted when I have achieved this, when I do get in the team, when I do get those high scores at school, when I do get best player on field. Yeah, so it's really...
future tense.
Yes, very much so. And it's a trap that we really don't want our children to become a part of, because then they just become these achievers, which later in life... they're never enough attitude. Like, it doesn't matter what they accomplish or what they do, they're never satisfied with themselves, and it's a scary place to be.
Yeah, it's there's a couple of kids that I've worked with, and even currently working with. Like, it's always like they put their value to once they've accomplished the task. The problem is, though, like you said, the goalposts move, or you're always moving the needle, and it's just like you're always in this cycle of forever chasing. And even when I was younger, I'll probably put myself in that. I'll be better when this happens, or life will be better when I make this amount of money, or my life will be better when I have this job or this career. Going back into teaching at uni again, and it's like you kind of hear that language all the time. It's like their self-value, the self-worth and value is tied up to something that is in the future tense, rather than a lot of professional athletes is like, what do I need to be doing now? Like, what do I have to do now in terms of the actual work or the task or the mindset or whatever it may be in order to achieve that thing later on down the track?
Yes.
So it's more about setting themselves up as the future self now in order to achieve that external or that task or that award or whatever it may be.
100%. Okay, what you've just outlined there is what we in coaching call the be, do, have model. Yeah, so it's starting out and this helps anyone get out of that spiral of, I'm not good enough, what if I don't make the team, that horrible negative mindset, to putting them into this space of, okay, who do I need to be? What values do I need to have? What thoughts do I need to have? What do I need to believe about myself? Yeah? And what do I then need to do in order to achieve that? So it's thinking about, what is it that I want? Say I want to be a part of this elite team of some degree.
Yeah, you want to be selected for the NPL team, or you want to get into get national times, or whatever it may be.
Exactly. Yeah. Okay, so that's the goal. All right, so someone who is selected for that team, what do you think they'd value? What do you think they'd believe about themselves? What do you think their thought processes would be? How do you think they'd feel on a daily basis about the thought of being in that team? And then once you go through all of those, what we call being questions in the coaching world, like who you need to be on the inside, then it's, okay, someone who has those being questions, who is that being, how do they behave? What are the actions they take? What are the things that they do in order to be in that team? And it's coming from that place. And that's exactly what you outlined. It's thinking that's the future self.
Yeah. Well, if you look at... you can look at professional athletes. Probably the best example, I'd say Caitlin Clark. I don't know, she's probably one of the hardest worker, probably the hardest worker in the WNBA at the moment. She's the most popular person at the moment within the WNBA, even in basketball circles around the world. A lot of people don't realise, the mentality that she had in order before she stepped on the court, before her training sessions, what she did behind the scenes. And it comes down to everything that, it's the iceberg analogy of all the things that you have to become, or you have to believe and perceive in order to achieve, that is above the surface of what actually people see. So it's like, within an athlete, a lot of people don't realize like what's happened behind the scenes in order to get to this point. There's a lot of things that I had to change and do and become in order to get to this place to where it is, and be able to work with the individuals and have the coaches on board and be able to grow from that perspective. So a lot of people have to do essentially realize what they're actually believing in themselves, and how they're actually operating. Essentially, what's their blueprint, or in that sense of how they create things, moving forward. Yeah,
it's the biggest part of the whole game. Like, you can show up and do the training, but if you are constantly telling yourself, or if you have a belief behind it all that you're not going to make it, I can tell you right now, you're not going to make it. There's an old quote, a very old, well-known quote from the book Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, which I think a lot of people know. And it is, what the mind can believe and perceive, it can achieve. And it's 100% right. In fact, when we talk, because you're kind of just touching on the unconscious part there, you were talking about the iceberg, like what you can see and what you can't. If we were to look at the mind that way, 94% of our mind's capacity is actually unconscious. Only 6% of our mind's capacity is conscious. So thinking of that quote, what the mind, if the mind can believe and perceive it, it can achieve it. Our imagination, or our mind, actually doesn't know the difference between reality and imagination. So visualization is a huge part to achieving a goal before we've actually achieved it. It helps our conscious mind become more attached, more, what's the word for it? There's a particular word I'm looking for, but it's like it gets really used to the outcome, and therefore that outcome isn't this great big scary thing it's never achieved before.
And that's actually funny, because there's research actually back that for those who have suffered from PTSD from going to war. So what they actually do is now they're putting them into virtual reality to actually go through the therapy sessions to actually be able to overcome and process what's actually happened to them as well. So there's like you said, if you can put people in these situations and actually guide them through these situations quite vividly, because like you said, the brain can't tell the difference between, augmented reality or, VR, virtual reality.
No.
You literally can't. And I love going back one point, when you see all these VR gaming places now, they're like, people get so into it, and then you see people walking on a beam, like on like a skyscraper, and they're literally just all walking across the floor.
Yeah, exactly.
It's so funny because their body cannot recognize or differentiate between what is real and what is not.
No, exactly. So if you were to check their heart rate in that point, it would be through the roof, when in reality they're actually walking across the floor. There's no danger
and
whatsoever.
Like you said, it goes back to the thing: perception is reality. Whatever we perceive is whatever we believe, and then that's what we achieve. In that sense, yeah, kind of full circle on that one. What can parents do then? How can parents actually support their kids?
Yeah, so I mean, first of all, as a coach and a parent myself, the first thing that I do is not...
And a netball coach.
And a netball coach, yes, I am a netball coach. Is I don't assume the child's goals. I actually ask the child, like, what do you want? So if they're talking about, their sport, like, what is the goal here? Like, what would you like to achieve? And depending on how old that child is, I'll often say to them, if I gave you one wish, here, pretend I'm your fairy godmother, I'll wave my magic wand, what would be the best outcome here? And get them to dream a little bit and get them to step into that space of, if I could have anything I wanted without anything holding me back, or without thinking that I wasn't enough, what would that be?
That's a wrap for part 1 of this episode on the Inner Athlete podcast. We've covered some incredible insights today, but there's still so much more to come. Make sure to tune in to part 2 for the rest of the conversation. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe, give us a like, and share it with your network to help us reach even more listeners like you. Thanks for joining me, and I'll catch you in part 2.